Picture this. You're in a room packed with the biggest names in the music industry. Cameras are capturing every second, and millions are watching from their homes, whether on their couches or phones. Suddenly, one name is announced, one that catches everyone off guard and changes everything. Bad Bunny, Album of the Year. The moment Harry Styles said those words, the atmosphere shifted. It wasn't just a monumental occasion for the person sitting in that chair or for the fans cheering from their cars and living rooms. It marked a crucial moment for an entire culture, a language, and a community that had long been told their music, their stories, and their voices didn't deserve to be in the spotlight. But that night, everyone there felt the undeniable truth. They belonged there. Welcome to Celebrity Rap Life, where the red carpets never roll up and the spotlight never fades. The rewards are legendary, because in Celebrity Rap Life, every downfall can become a comeback, and every headline tells a deeper story. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a second of what's coming next. For a long moment, Bad Bunny just sat there. No fist pump, no jumping out of his seat like you see in those highlight reels, no dramatic run to the stage with tears streaming down his face and a speech already rehearsed in his pocket. Nah, he stayed right where he was, one hand slowly covering his face, and he just let it sink in, let the weight of it wash over him. And honestly, that quiet moment right there told you more than any victory speech ever could. That was a man who understood exactly what had just happened, who understood the size of it, who understood that this was not just about him. That was a man carrying something much bigger than a gold gramophone trophy. That was a man carrying the hopes and the dreams and the silent prayers of every Latin artist who ever picked up a microphone and wondered if the world would ever stop and listen. Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio. That is the real name behind the legend. Born in Puerto Rico, raised with a rhythm in his blood and a fire in his chest, this 31-year-old had been dominating the music scene for years already. Streaming records broken, sold-out stadiums packed from corner to corner, songs in every language that people could not get out of their heads no matter how hard they tried. But none of that, not a single one of those achievements, had ever come close to this. Because this was the Grammy, the Album of the Year Grammy, the one that matters the most, the one that every artist on the planet dreams about holding in their hands. And Bad Bunny had just won it for an album that was performed entirely in Spanish. Read that one more time. Entirely in Spanish. Not a single English word carrying the weight of that record. Not a single concession made to fit into what the industry had always quietly demanded. Bad Bunny walked into the most exclusive room in music, spoke his language, told his story in the tongue his grandmother spoke to him in, and won the whole thing. In 67 years of Grammy history, nobody had ever done that. 67 years. That is not a small number. That is generations of artists, legends, icons, people who changed the sound of the entire world, and not one of them had pulled this off before. Bad Bunny was the first, the very first, and that fact alone should tell you everything you need to know about how long this world had been sleeping on Latin music. But here is where the story gets even heavier, because that Grammy stage was not just a stage that night. It was a battlefield, a quiet, glittering, very public battlefield. The 2026 Grammys were taking place in the middle of one of the most charged and painful moments in American history. Immigration raids were tearing through communities. Families were being ripped apart. People who had built their lives in this country, who had worked and loved and raised children on American soil, were being dragged away in the middle of the night. Minneapolis had become a flashpoint. The whole country was watching. The whole world was watching. And the music industry, for once, was not looking away. The moment the red carpet opened up and the stars started rolling in, something was different. You could feel it. Something in the air was heavier than usual, thicker, more intentional. And then people started noticing the pins, tiny little pins clipped onto jackets and dresses and lapels, reading two words that packed an enormous punch. Ice out. 2 words, 3 letters, and a word. but the message behind them was loud as anything. The artists were making a statement. They were saying that what was happening out there in the streets, in the neighborhoods, in the lives of real people was not something they were willing to just sit back and ignore while they sipped champagne and accepted awards. Joni Mitchell had one. Justin Bieber had one. Artists from every generation, every genre, every background were showing up with those pins attached to their outfits like armor. It didn't matter if you were a hip-hop legend or a pop princess or a rock icon who had been in the game for 40 years. If you were on that carpet, chances are you had something to say. And the way they said it was not through screaming or protesting or making dramatic speeches before a single song was performed. It was subtle. It was unified. It was a whole room of the most powerful voices in entertainment, quietly and deliberately putting their name behind something that mattered. That's what solidarity looks like when it actually means something. Now think about what that backdrop meant for Bad Bunny's win. Think about a Puerto Rican man, a Latino, an artist who had spent his entire career singing in Spanish, winning the biggest award in music on a night when the entire industry was standing up against the persecution of immigrant communities. Think about the layers in that moment. Think about what it feels like for a young Latino kid sitting at home watching that broadcast, seeing someone who looks like him, who sounds like him, who comes from a place just like where his family comes from, holding that trophy while everyone around him is wearing pins that say his people matter. That's not just entertainment, that's medicine. That's a message that cuts through all the noise and all the chaos and all the fear and says something simple and undeniable. You are here. You belong. Your story is worth telling. Your language is worth hearing. And tonight, the whole world is going to hear it. Bad Bunny didn't just win a Grammy that night. He cracked something open. He broke a door that had been locked for over 60 decades, and he did it in the most impossible way imaginable. He did it by being exactly who he is. No code switching, no softening the edges to make the mainstream more comfortable, no featuring a big English-speaking name on every track just to get radio play in America. He made his music the way he wanted to make it, in the language that felt natural, in the sound that felt right, and the world followed him there. The world came to him, and that is the kind of power that cannot be manufactured or bought or faked. That is the kind of power that comes from being real. The significance of this moment for Latin American music cannot be overstated. For years, for decades really, Latin artists had to fight twice as hard just to get half the recognition. They had to cross over, they had to translate, they had to shrink themselves down to fit into spaces that were never really built for them. The music industry had always made it clear, sometimes loudly and sometimes just through silence, that Spanish language music was a niche. It was a side category. It was something you might enjoy at a party, but it was never going to sit at the top of the table where the real decisions and the real glory lived. Bad Bunny just walked into that table, sat down, and took the head seat. And nobody could argue with him because the numbers didn't lie. The fans didn't lie. The music didn't lie. What makes this even more powerful is the timing. You can't separate art from the world it exists in. You just can't. And the world Bad Bunny was making music in during this stretch was a world that was actively trying to make people like him feel unwelcome. Immigration crackdowns, hostile rhetoric aimed at Latino communities, a political climate that made a lot of people feel like they were being told to disappear, to shrink, to stay quiet. And in the middle of all of that, this man from Puerto Rico stepped into the biggest spotlight in music and did the exact opposite. He got louder, he got bolder, he took up more space, and the industry rewarded him for it. That is a statement that goes way beyond music.
Think about what it took to get to this point. Bad Bunny did not wake up one morning and just stumble into greatness. This was years of grinding, years of proving himself over and over again in a system that was not built for someone like him. He started small, he started in bedrooms and local stages and online uploads, building a following one song at a time, one fan at a time. And every single time the industry whispered that he should tone it down, that he should sing more in English, that he should make himself easier to swallow for the mainstream, he did the opposite. He doubled down. He went deeper into his roots, deeper into his language, deeper into the sound of where he came from. And every time he did that, his audience got bigger. That is the kind of stubbornness that only works if the art is truly that good. And it was. The red carpet pins, the solidarity, the collective energy in that building that night, none of that happened by accident. The music world has always had a complicated relationship with politics and social issues. Sometimes they lean in, sometimes they stay quiet and just focus on the songs. But on this particular night, the room had made a decision. They were going to be present. They were going to acknowledge what was happening in the country they lived in and the people who were being affected by it. And having Bad Bunny win Album of the Year in the middle of all of that felt almost too perfect, too heavy, too meaningful to be coincidence. It felt like the universe was sending a signal, like the moment had been set up to say something that words alone could never fully capture. Bad Bunny sat in that chair with his hand on his face and let the moment hit him. And it should have hit him, because what he did that night was not just personal. It was cultural, it was political, it was historical. He carried something into that room that no one else had ever carried out of it. And he did it quietly, with grace, with humility, and with a song that proved once and for all that greatness does not have a language. It does not have a nationality. It does not have a color. It just has a sound. And on that night, the sound of Spanish, the sound of Puerto Rico, the sound of Bad Bunny was the greatest sound in the world. This story is far from over, and the truth is still unfolding. I want to hear what you think. Drop your take in the comments. And if you don't want to miss the next twist, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a second of what's coming next.